All right. Well, if you are a fan of the Fierce FC socials, you are probably a fan of this man who does a big piece of what we do online. Caleb Roy, the Fierce FC videographer. And Caleb, it's such an honor to be able to talk to you because we have been together for quite some time at this point, and people I don't think realize how much you do for this show in terms of the content that is produced. If you could just give us a quick intro of who you are and what you specifically do for the show.
Yeah, name's Caleb. I've been with Fierce for almost 2 years now. I do a lot of the highlight reels and most of the recap videos you guys see, and if you guys ever want highlight reels of your fights, then I'll get those to you as well.
Yeah, man. I mean, 23 shows. I counted it out, and 23 shows in for you. And it is so cool to watch you grow as you've done this. I remember when you came in October of 2022. So you're right, just about 2 years since that time. And I guess I just want to kick things off with, how did you find Fierce, and why did you want to get involved with the show?
Actually, I had a friend that knew Joel Haro, personally, and so we had gone to a few of his fights, just to support him. I think it was Fierce 17 or 18. Those are my first 2 events, and those are awesome. I had a great time, and then I started school at UVU for film in August of that year, and then I started working on a project for a couple of the Fierce fighters in association with Fierce, and I reached out to Zach about getting access to that fight at Clearfield High School, and he said that I can't have you just be there for the fighter, but I can have you be there for the show, at working as our videographer. And I thought that was a great opportunity for myself, and I was very new at the time. But I told him, I'd give him my best shot, and you guys liked the video of that first recap in October.
I mean, you absolutely killed that one. I remember it very specifically. I was like, "Oh, who is this guy?" And then, we got to know each other, and now we kind of work together alongside for so many of these projects, and you do such a great job with it. So let me ask you this. I didn't realize that you had just started at UVU. How much film and camera work background did you have when you were kind of offered to help out with the show?
I had basically just started. Literally,
Wow,
yeah,
really?
yeah, in August. That was literally my first time picking up, a camera.
That is so crazy to think about. And so that's kind of one of the next questions I wanted to ask you is, do you ever look back at your old stuff and just kind of, I don't know, I do this all the time with my broadcasts, look back maybe, 2 years back, 18 months, 2 years back, and think to yourself like, man, like what was I doing? Or like why did I do it that way? And how much you just see how much you've grown.
Yeah. No, there's good and bad. I feel like looking back on it, I gain a lot of inspiration. I feel like from work looking back at my previous projects. But it's also a great measurement for how far I've come. I feel like, and it's also great just hearing people give you feedback and letting you know that they enjoy the content, and that's really what I do it for. Honestly, at the end of the day, is for these fighters and giving them some good content to put out, and some good stuff.
Obviously in this line of work that we do with content and obviously broadcasting and things like that, it's very competitive. Do you ever have people that are reaching out to you and are like, "Hey, how can I kind of get through the door? How can I like do you have people at UVU who want to potentially do the type of stuff that you get to do for on a
Oh yeah,
weekly basis?"
there's been a couple of other students that have asked me to second shoot at Fierce events and stuff like that. But hasn't happened yet, but I'm sure as we grow it'll happen. But no, yeah, it's very competitive. I'm very fortunate to have this opportunity. I think about it, all the time, because at that very first Fierce event that I went to in the summer, even before I got the opportunity to be the videographer, I was thinking like how I could get my foot in the door. And it was awesome that it was as simple as a conversation with Zach, and that's how it started.
It was so beneficial. I remember right around the same time I was like, we kind of need to up our media content, and I can't be shooting these shows. I'm going to be calling these fights, and so it was just kind of perfectly fit together that we were able to find you. And man, it's been so beneficial to the show and specifically our online presence. I wanted to ask you, what does a typical week look like for you? Because I don't know if people realize this, but you're the one that kind of holds the keys to all the high quality footage. I pull from the broadcast, but if I need some sort of a trailer, a commercial, something like that, I go to you. And obviously you make your own content in your own right as well.
Yeah, you said how does a week look like for
Yeah.
me?
Like what does a typical week look like for you when you're working on Fierce content?
Yeah, say first I will get highlights that you had requested for some upcoming trailers that you're making. Um, and then from there, I'll go really a lot of it is what I'll feel in the moment, like, "Oh, I heard this tune, I heard this track, I feel like this would go awesome with this type of fighter, with, their fight that they just had." And then I'll kinda just go from there as far as editing, like, a highlight reel or something. And then as far as, like, trailers and recaps, I'm really into, like, orchestral, like, epic versions, of like, hip hop songs or other modern songs, that we have out. Um so I'll gain inspiration from those and kind of visualize it in my head, and then I'll go out or I'll go to my editing software and kind of build it out from there.
So that's what kind of like a regular week looks like. What does like a fight week and maybe a fight day look like for someone like you? Because and maybe the aftermath, because I know that one of the most rigorous things that you do and tedious things that you do is those incredible recap videos that are very detail oriented. And I feel so bad, but I sometimes have to be the bad guy and say, "Hey, dude, we got to switch this, and this." And you're the
Yeah.
one that always, comes through and produces something great.
Yeah. No, show usually gets done around 9 or 10 o'clock. Um, I'll get home, offload my footage. It's anywhere from like 100 to 200 gigabytes, of fight content, offload that to the hard drive. That takes about an hour or two. Um, and then at that point, I'll hopefully have the track figured out so I can just start layering in the first couple steps. Because we try to have the recap done by Monday, so I'll spend Saturday night and then most of Sunday afternoon editing the rest of the 2 or 3 minute video, kind of putting that all together. And really, I'm just trying to edit it so it's hard. It's hard hitting. Kind of a pun, but um, you know, it moves quickly. It grabs your attention. Makes you feel something too, of course. But yeah, I finish, probably pretty late or early Sunday or early Monday morning is when I'll finish the video, and I'll get it up to you guys, and then it gets posted on Monday.
What is kind of your order of operation? Because there's so many layers to it. And maybe people don't realize this, but you have the video aspect, you have the music aspect, you have the synchronization aspect, you have the Nats aspect, which I also was kind of like, hey, this is kind of something that separates us from other shows. Like we have to have a narration throughout this kind of a thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot of pieces to it. What is kind of the order of operation for you in that editing process?
Yeah. I would say most importantly to me, and I feel like it might be a little obvious through the reels, is the music, of course. I lay everything kind of perfectly how I would like it laid, and according to the clips with the music. And then I'll go through and lay in some of the nats, and try and get everything to line up how I would like it to. Um, and then from there, I'll go in through and just balance everything. I'll also sometimes make a instrumental version of the track and layer that beneath it, so I can play with the audio levels as we're going in and out between the track and the actual nats. So that takes a little bit longer too as well. Um, but yeah, about those three things.
You are big on music. Are you a big music fan? Were you always kind of passionate about music in general?
Definitely. Always had AirPod, earbud in my ear through middle school, high school. So super into that. Really anything. I'm always listening to something.
One of the big things I wanted to ask you, and I always have a hard time asking these questions because it might leave you kind of in an awkward position, but did you ever think that you would have this big of an impact on the show when you started in October of 2022?
Absolutely not. No. Um, I definitely thought it was just going to be a one-off that you guys were going to ask for that. A recap, it was good. You guys liked it. I liked it too. I had a great time filming it. But no, I did not think I would still be here at Fierce years later, still producing content, having all these relationships with the crew and other fighters as well. So no, it's gotten bigger than I could have possibly, thought at the moment.
So that's my next question is, do you feel like you've kind of gained the respect and recognition that 100% you deserve from the MMA community, be it the people that work for Fierce and also the fighters at large? Because one of the reasons I wanted to do this is because we're seeing more and more comments of people giving you your props, which is what I have always wanted for you because you absolutely deserve it.
Yeah, no, I love it. I see it, and that definitely um helps me want to continue and keep making content for all the fighters and you guys. Just that show of appreciation is awesome. I love it.
What got you interested in shooting sports in the first place? Obviously, you found Fierce through obviously like Joel Haro and coming to a show, but I know you're also a sports fan at large. Has this always kind of been like a pipe dream for you, or did it kind of fall into your lap when you thought, this might be something I might want to do?
I think a little bit. I of course has always been a football fan from the Chicagoland area. I'm a big Bears fan, Bear Down. So, and then I can't remember the exact dates, but it was between the Khabib, McGregor, and Adesanya and Gastelum fight is where my fandom in MMA really spiked. Um, and even during that time, I had fallen in love with like the embedded series, with their whole content creation over at the UFC, and that really inspired me to kind of want to look at doing this kind of stuff. Um, but yeah, as far as when my fandom really kicked off, it was probably around those two events. That was UFC 236, I think, the Adesanya and Gastelum. That was a huge influence for me. There was the Gastelum and Sonny fight. There was the Khalil Roundtree and Eric Anders fight. That was a huge inspiration for me. That really wanted me to start taking up Muay Thai.
That's a
Uh,
great poll. That's a
yeah,
great fight.
I love that fight.
How excited are you for Khalil Roundtree to be headlining in Salt Lake in a couple of weeks?
I am so excited, but super nervous for that fight. Um, definitely think he has a chance, but Pereira is the guy.
Back on the Fierce side of things, do you have any specific funny story or something that people wouldn't realize happens at shows that have happened to you over the course of the last 2 years? Something behind the scenes that people just don't realize is like kind of a hurdle that you have to deal with every single fight day.
Um, Maybe the blood splatter. That's something you have to actively try and avoid. Lots of spit coming at you too. Those are a couple of the things that you'll find on your clothes or your camera gear. If I don't have my lens cleaner, I'm using my shirt, trying to wipe that off because it gets everywhere. Definitely for certain fighters.
Can you remember a specific fight where that was particularly a hurdle you had to jump over?
Oh man. The Jerome Hatch fight from FC 31, I believe, at the UBU
Mm-hmm.
Center back in April. That fight had blood everywhere, all along the gates, all along my gear, all along my clothes. Yeah, it was.
And I'm kind of in my own world. I feel bad that I'm not able to keep track of everybody as much as I'd like to on the media team, but where are you primarily? Are you following the fight? Are you in a set position? What is typically your whereabouts on fight day around the cage?
Yeah. Brevin and I, the other photographer, we usually try to stay right by the main gate. We feel we get the best coverage that way. Either there or right on the side, right next to the cornerman, as well, where I'll usually be. I can get in and out of the cage that way easily in between rounds and get some pretty good wide shots of everything.
Has any spectator ever gotten mad at you for being in the way?
Oh, yeah. Happens, fortunately, not too often, but a lot more often than I like. But I understand they want to see the fights. They want to support the people that they're there for. So I try and work around and try and not get in their way too much. But it does happen for sure.
Do you have any favorite fighters in the state that you just love making content for? I mean, you make so much content for the heavy hitters, obviously a Kent Mafileo, a Zeke Latu. I feel like we have new content for them all the time. But is there anyone specifically that you go, oh, I really love to make stuff for this person because their style of fight is just so conducive with the type of content that I like to make?
Oh yeah. Talon Carvalho, easily for sure. He is so much fun to make content for. Whenever he has a fight, I'm like, yeah, I'm immediately making an edit for that fight. Him, MMO, for sure. His fights are absolutely crazy. Hit super hard, crazy combinations. He's awesome. Brendan Myers has awesome fights to edit to as well. He had that war with Tony Garcia down in Carbon County. That was awesome to make an edit to. Andrew Mickelson, also awesome. I can keep going, of course, but there's so many fighters for Fierce. There's so many.
Obviously you're behind a camera and you're doing a job, but there's also the aspect that you can be a fan at these shows. And like you mentioned, you're a fan of so many of these fighters that make the walk. Do you ever have a moment where you are not necessarily working as much as you are just like, I can't believe that just happened? Because Brevin has mentioned to me before, he's like, dude, Caleb and I just looked at each other. We couldn't believe what we were watching. How often do those opportunities get to happen for you where you just go, man, I know I'm working, but that was absolutely crazy what just happened?
Oh yeah, happens all the time. You'll see it in the footage sometimes. It'll be kind of out of focus for a second, and then you'll go, and then I'll focus back or align the shot again. Definitely when I like the fighter. It's very gets a little personal for me at some moments, but I try and not say too much because other times I'm by the corner or my other corners. I don't want to say anything that would make me seem biased or anything, but I definitely am.
Have you ever kind of lost your lid for a fight or a fighter before? I know I on a hot microphone I have been guilty of this in years past, but do you ever kind of shed the professionalism a little bit and just kind of become a fan for half a second before you dial back in?
Oh, for sure. There's a few moments where I look at, a coach, a ref, quarterman. I'm like, oh, is that really happening? But uh, yeah, for sure.
Brings me to my last question. Do you have a favorite Fierce memory specifically?
I had already brought this up. I mean, this is maybe not what you're looking for. This is a memory from a fight. Again, I already brought this up, but Brendan Meyer's fight against Tony Garcia, that was like one of the greatest fights I feel like I've ever seen in person. Like someone, I feel like it really mirrored the first fight in a way where it goes to the second round, he gets dropped, and Brendan Meyer, he just pulls it out. He pulls off the submission, and the crowd goes crazy. That was one of the most real and visceral crowd reactions I feel like I've heard from the crowd and from the fighter himself. That was just such a pure moment in MMA sports for Utah, I feel like. So
I said that was going to be my last question, but this will be my last question. What are your future goals? Obviously, we love having you with Fierce, but how deep do you want to potentially take this videography career that you have created for yourself?
yeah, I definitely would love to make it my full-time job and do this, for the rest of my life. I have a passion for film. I have a passion for the art for sure. Um, right now, I just want to grow really my own personal brand. And honestly, keep working for Fierce. I love the trajectory that they're on and the opportunity that they give me and the freedom that it gives me too, or that they give me. Um, so my plans are to keep with Fierce, see where it goes.
Well, we absolutely hope we can keep you for as long as we can. So much talent out of you, Caleb, and genuinely, we are so appreciative of all the work that you get to do. We appreciate it so much, man, and we just can't wait for what the future holds. Thank you so much for the time, dude. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much. I
Of
appreciate it.